We're back, SwamiLee's Sports Talk. I'm SwamiLee,
I am Mad Mike.
and we're here to talk some Phillies today as we know the season begins real soon, and the minor league teams are already getting ready to start their season before the major league teams. Now, today we have a topic that Mike and I have not discussed yet. He does not even know the topic. I'm going to give you a couple of hints before we actually discuss it. This topic does not involve that Hunter Lee Marquardt. This topic does not involve that Simon Muzziotti. And this topic does not involve that Ethan Wilson. Mike, do you know what this topic is about?
It obviously has to involve that huge trade with the White Sox involving Adam Hazley.
Mike, you are 100% accurate. It does indeed involve not only Adam Hazley, but it also involves the battle for center field. As we know, Adam Hazley, the former first-round failed pick, was traded to the White Sox. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about that Adam Hazley trade before we go any further?
Well, when you and I discussed it very briefly a few days ago, you suggested that they would get a washed-up 38-year-old reliever.
Yes, they
And
did.
I don't think it was quite that awful, but not much better than that.
Well, they got an okay arm. I mean, I'm not counting this guy to be a future closer, but they got an okay arm for Hazley. I think he's 23 or 24. He's going to go to Double A, so obviously he's not a top prospect. He throws some gas supposedly, but it was a middle reliever, like I said it would be. And the real problem with this trade wasn't actually what they got for him. It's they traded a top 10 pick in the draft that they took a few years back and got a guy who they could have gotten in the Rule 5 draft. You know, they didn't get a major league caliber return for a top 10 draft pick. That's my issue with this trade.
Is that your only issue with this trade or your biggest issue with this trade?
Actually, it's my only issue with this trade. And when we go on to the next part of the topic, you'll see why. So,
Okay.
what do you think about the trade?
Well, it seems to me that the Phillies think they know something or several things about Adam Hazley that we do not, that justifies giving up on him at this point. And they may be right. But you know, the fact is, as you pointed out, they got someone who they don't expect to get anything from now. They may never get anything from. And while I was unaware that he was unprotected in the Rule 5 draft,
Well, no, I didn't mean he was literally, because they didn't do a Rule 5
you,
draft this year.
you meant a player of his caliber, of
Correct. In
his.
other words, they could have gotten him or a player similar to him in the Rule 5, is my whole point. Because that's what the Rule 5 draft is mostly 25-year-old single A relief pitchers. So,
So in other words, they traded a recent top 10 pick for someone who is even easier to get than a dime a dozen.
correct. And again,
Okay.
that's my issue. If they had traded Luke Williams for this kid, I wouldn't have cared. You know, I like Luke Williams. He was a nice utility player, but he's not going to hurt the team being gone.
And you know what? I mean, if Matt Klentak and Andy McPhail were still running things, this trade wouldn't have happened because they wouldn't have given up on their own high draft pick so soon in that way.
Well, the fact that he left the team due to personal issues very well could have been part of the problem. They know the personal issues better than you and I do. But you know what it is, the bottom line, Mike? He's another Phillies prospect who needed a change of scenery. I mean, we're getting to the point. Remember Gavin Floyd?
I do.
He needed a change of scenery. I mean, they all need a change of scenery. It's insanity. But let's get on to the topic because, again, Adam Hazley was a great guest because the guys I mentioned earlier were all three Centerfield prospects, including Hunter Lee Marquardt. And so now the battle, I mean, a week ago, I said it was going to be Hazley and Vierling in center field until Odubel comes back, and Mickey Moniak's going to be off the 40-man roster. Now, Mike, what has happened to Mickey Moniak over the course of the last week and a half, I guess I should say?
Well, I have to admit that I have not actually watched any spring training baseball, but based upon what I've seen on ESPN.com and seen on Twitter, it seems like Moniak has done more than just insert himself into that battle. It seems like Moniak is making something of a claim for the center field job.
Well, Moniak has 5 home runs this spring. I don't know if you know that or not. He's hitting 310 this spring. I mean, if you last week, Joe Girardi, before the trade of Hazley, Joe Girardi had made a comment a couple days earlier saying that it's either going to be Hazley or Odubel or Vierling. Of course, before Odubel got hurt, and Moniak was not in the picture. And all of a sudden, they traded Hazley. Moniak has pretty much made the team, and I don't know if you know, Vierling's hitting below 200. Now, this is a guy that came up last year and hit over 300, and they wouldn't play him for some strange reason, in spite of the fact that he kept hitting. I mean, I was a big Vierling guy. I think I think he deserves a chance, and I got no issue with Moniak and Vierling platooning, or if one of them gets hot, play him all the time. But let me tell you what I have a problem with, Mike. Did you? Obviously, you followed the team last year. I'm sorry to have said that to you, but how poor was that front office the first month and a half of the season when they would give each center fielder 20 at bats, and when he was 3 for 20, they'd replace him with somebody else?
Well, let's face it, sensible, intelligent, rational management has not been a hallmark of this franchise in recent years.
It's insanity. I mean, we were at the game. Mickey Moniak his first major league home run in that rainy April game against the Giants when I lost that bet because the Giants starting pitcher was taken out after 3 innings because of the rain. When he was going to strike out at least 5 Phillies. Come on, man. Anyway,
I remember.
Let's get back on topic. But seriously speaking, they gave each guy, he gave Hazley 20 at bats and dumped him. They gave Moniak 20 some at bats and dumped him. It was insanity.
You know what that reminds me of?
What might that be?
It reminds me of a manager about 25 years ago who, if the man who normally batted second in the lineup was out.
Oh, did you really have to get me started on Terry Francoma? Did you really have to get me started on Francoma?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God! I'm not going to get into that. You are not going to bait me into talking about Terry Francoma in this video. Sorry, man. Ain't going to happen. So here's the bottom line: it's going to be Moniak or Vierling until Odubel comes back. So the first question is, are you going to go with Moniak because he's having a hotter spring, or are you going to go with Vierling because he had at least some success at the major league level? That's the first question.
Well, if Moniak is still the hot hand come opening day, which I believe is 5 days from today.
I believe it is.
Then I would probably ride the hot hand.
Okay. And if Moniak goes 1 for his first 10, are you going to get rid of him?
Get rid of him?
Well, you know what I'm talking about. In other words, are you going to banish him to the deepest, darkest dungeons because he didn't do well in his first 3 games, like the Phillies seem to like to do?
No, I think the spring he's had has earned him more than just 10 plate appearances to put up or shut up.
And last question, and I know the answer already, but personal feelings aside, please. Okay? So, it's May 12th. We'll say Odubel's ready to come off the IL on May 12th. Moniak is hitting 293. Vierling is hitting 280. They're both playing like solid major leaguers. Personal feelings aside, what are you doing with Odubel? Remember, you're paying him $1.75 million.
Okay, well, remember, it's not my $1.75 million.
But it is in this conversation. It is because you're the general manager. What are you doing?
Well, if I'm the general manager, I'm smart enough and savvy enough to realize that we've seen the ceiling for Odubel. He's never going to be better than at some point he's been in the past. And the fact is, he has shown, if anything, he's gone downhill. He's shown no potential for growth, whereas for Moniak and Vierling, they still have potential for growth. We haven't seen their ceilings yet. And you can debate how much room for growth they have, but the fact is, they both have room for growth. Odubel does not. And while Odubel would be something of a veteran presence, the fact is they don't need something of a veteran presence from him when they have Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber. So, so the fact is, if both Vierling and Moniak have earned a place on the 25 or 26, however many it
26. Yep.
is, then then for all the reasons I've articulated, Odubel does not come back up.
I had a feeling you would say that, and I can't argue your logic. I didn't want to bring him back in the first place. I don't think his upside was worth it. Not about the money, but I'd rather have a young kid out there batting 240 than have Odubel out there hitting 250. So
I agree.
again, we have opening day coming up, just a few days. We'll be able to revisit this conversation and see if they do dump one of the players because they went 0 for his first 6 like they did last year. Let's hope that one or both of them prove they're major leaguers. Mike, we're out of time. Any last words about that center field battle?
Yes. If Moniak and Vierling both come out playing well, then it would not be a surprise if Odubel's injury lingers longer than one might expect.
That's an interesting thought. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And for SwamiLee's Sports Talk, Episode 3, we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.